This is Atlas Thugged. As much as we have, it's currently a media blackout right now. It's about a 10-minute video here. Get the libertarians out of this party, man. Part of a new series I'm going to be running called Bot or Not.
I grew up as a white man, and you're the exact opposite, you know?
It's time we have a difficult conversation about race.
40 IQ points it needs to think about what is being told to you.
Most people are just blatantly apathetic to what goes on around them in their surroundings, let alone this play.
A trans woman's penis make you gay?
Can I define to answer that comment?
The dating market is for men your age.
I'm not a misogynist. I'm a sexist.
Right, like for example, like as a white man, I can go out and I could go right here in Columbus and scream the N-word as loud as I wanted to because I have that privilege. Those who would sacrifice a little freedom for a little convenience serves neither.
Titan says, Browns should be for whites. We were just trying to help them run a better empire.
Hey, truth.
But she's straight up, she's like, stock market. She's like, bro, like, I can't even buy a fucking house. Like,
And, you know, it probably doesn't help that half the comments are, oh, you're not banned on YouTube. Man, how is this guy? How's this guy not banned on YouTube? It's like, yeah, I'm sure YouTube probably picks up on those things. And they're probably wondering why so many people are saying that, you know.
and all these top brass pundits who have some kind of association or relationship with Epstein, you know, it's getting to the point where you got to think like I'm about to go look at my residential history and be like, did I live next to Epstein for like some time? Like, man, everyone on this planet must have some relation to Epstein. And then you go, oh, actually, no. This is because the administration is all wrapped in together with it themselves.
And I said this maybe about a year ago. You know, what if Christianity wasn't in such a cucked position that what if Andrew Tate, like Tristan, would have went to a Christian position? Fell for it again award, #1 right here. And you know what? I can't even make fun of the audience because I fell for it too. And that's probably what I'm most pissed about. He's huffing some extreme copium. Oh yeah, sister, you definitely owned him. Hey, can I see you after tonight? You know, it's like that's that's what you're competing up against because or bad jacketing him and calling him a weird little gay.
Is this like alt-right Pope's husband? What am I listening
Yeah.
Okay, stop it. This guy's gonna get into statistics, stuff like that.
Oh, no, statistics. Not
So-
we don't do statistics.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of Offensively Accurate, hosted by yours truly, the biggest, whitest, Christianist, nationalist on the surface of YouTube. Thank you very much for being here, everybody. Joining me today is going to be Mainstream Dissident, someone who I got into the know of with, I believe, Outside the Overton, actually, and I might have seen you on Twitter beforehand there too as well. But just a couple announcements. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping before we get into this. Just a couple points of order here. First thing, I am beginning to look at merchandising. I'm not wanting to do anything gimmicky, so I'm going to leave it at that. With that, though, I would like people to send me design suggestions, any kind of suggestion in terms of whether you think a hat or a wife beater or a t-shirt, whatever you guys would be interested in, let me know, because I definitely don't want to launch something that no one wants. So please definitely let me know about that. And send designs in too. And, you know, I have an old logo. I'll probably show it on screen later on as we get through this. And we'll touch back on that as we go through this. But don't want to bear the lead too much. Make sure you smash the like button. Subscribe if you've not already. And welcome in Mainstream Dissident. Who are you, sir? What do you do?
What's up, guys? My name is Adam. I host the brand new podcast, Mainstream Dissident. You can find me on YouTube, Rumble, X, pretty much across all platforms. I'm pumped that Atlas reached out to me. Him and I are doing this collab tonight, and it's going to be a good time, guys.
And thank you very much for that, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah. So I think the first thing that we can kind of go in at is, I think you might even be, well, I guess let me say it like this. I'll go by what you put in your bio, and correct me if I'm wrong. White Christian nationalist socialist, right? Or national socialist. Or maybe I got that
Yes.
wrong.
Yes. You're pretty close. I kind of recently I cut down the redundancy and I just shortened it to Christian National Socialist. Just nice, short, sweet. The white is implied. I mean, look at me. But yeah. Yeah.
And so would you say that's different than Christian nationalism?
Maybe to a certain extent. So I'm in the past year, I've found myself really diving into World War II history, maybe even a little history revisionism. But that really sparked something into me to research what National Socialism is. And I know in my belief system already, I'm a Christian. So I found over the past year and a half that those two, if you really look at the true Christianity and true National Socialism, they do not conflict, they do not clash. And you know what? Some people might be like, "Whoa, dude, what's this guy saying?" But if you actually look at history and do a little bit of research, you might find the same thing. You might be like, "Hey, that Adam guy, he's not wrong." So that's kind of where I'm at. I think that you would consider me a Christian nationalist. I believe what the umbrella of Christian nationalism. Yeah, I'm there. So
Perfect. And so I guess I'm curious then, because there is kind of a decently large, I guess I would say, schism, if you will, between like the competing elements of the dissident right wing. And so I'm curious because you kind of openly brand yourself. I would imagine you're closer to where Corey Muller and Stonequire is than you are where Joel Webbin is at.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Definitely.
Most definitely. Yeah.
And would you say the driving element of that is probably, well, two things largely. One, race, and secondly, the economic kind of layout of how the country should govern itself?
Yes, I'm a race realist. I think that race is real, relevant, and shouldn't be ignored. That's kind of where the National Socialist in me is coming out. But as far as the economic side of anything, I think if we were to live in homogenous communities, that economics, that would be like a second thought. If you have a cohesive society where people share that same religion and share that same love of nation, then we're all here to work for each other. Not, and I don't mean to sound communistic here, but we if we want to succeed, even if we want to succeed, just Christian nationalists in general, we need to collectivize and we need to embolden our brothers if we want to succeed, or if we even want to be relevant in the political landscape today.
Very true. And, I'm a race realist myself too. I guess I kind of, that's been the one position I think I've probably been doing the most thinking about, and credit to, Corey Muller for putting things into perspective for me. Because I think a lot of what he highlights about the realities of such and the historical realities of such, I think you can't ignore those things. And I guess to go to a different element, kind of getting a bit more into where we're at and where you're at recently. One of the recent streams that you did with 1989 Theology was talking about the collectivization aspect, but largely the paranoia, or maybe I would also say the schizophrenic delusion that any collectivization is always met with some kind of pushback related to federal assets, or even it's almost the same way we self-censor ourselves on stream. We also self-prevent ourselves from joining groups or collectivizing, because we know in the back of our heads, there almost is certainly an element that this is set up in a way to put you in jail. And I'm kind of curious, your thoughts, how do we move away from that? Because that element's never going away, but we know the strategic objective is we need to collectivize. So what ways have you thought about the circumventing of that element to get guys out of that paranoia and more willing to join groups, match up, and lock up arms with brothers?
So where I'm at with that, man, I for years, even before I even thought about buying a webcam or a microphone or anything, I thought, what can I do to remain anonymous, to hide what I believe, to sequester myself with still getting my voice out there, because I think my opinions matter. I think my opinions would be a positive impact into the world. How can I do that with being hidden? Well, I realized you can't. In today's modern society, hey, we all have tracking devices in our pockets at all times, and if you don't, well, then you're probably not even watching this stream. Let's be real.
Right.
So in this modern age, I think it's imperative that we accept, hey, we're being watched. We're being watched right now, but instead of living in fear and being afraid, oh no, I'm afraid all the time, we can then utilize that and say, okay, well, we're being watched. Let's think about this. Are we going to act like complete idiots out there, and we're just going to be the most boisterous, lawless people out there, and then we all get taken out, we all get put in jail? Or are we going to civilly state our case and move forward? I think the fear of federal involvement is real and relevant. I'm not trying to say, oh, feds don't exist. But what I'm trying to tell people, including myself sometimes, because I do get paranoid, is I think we need to drop the fear, accept where we're at, and move forward. You don't want to be stupid about it. You have to have a little bit of thought behind it. However, to live in a constant state of fear, a fear of excelling, a fear of moving forward because of the consequences, fear of consequences will absolutely kill anything that you attempt to do. Not just the Christian nationalist movement, but anything. So we gotta accept it, and we gotta move past it, you know?
I agree. And this has kind of been probably the biggest pushback that I've ever gotten, especially whether it was like, friends, family members, anyone that's close to me, or even just in the space in general. But I'm glad that Stone Choir is building influence, because, they continually talk about, we're going to have to go through a period of martyrdom. And we already kind of partially are. There's a lot of people who have basically already been banned. They've gone through the ringer, right? And some of them, still exist. Some of them gave it up because they know, like, they got to move on. And that's always been the thought process, which is like, someone has to go through that door. Everyone can't sit here and stare at an unopened door. And while, people are getting shot in the back and then hoping, somebody will at some point. It's like, you have to be that person who does that. It sucks, but that is the reality that we're in. It's like, there's going to be no easy path to winning our country back where, there's not going to be consequences, where they don't go after your family. They don't try to character assassinate you. They don't try to plant some kind of, ridiculous pornography on your home computer. They don't try to this is the element of what we're in. And we have to push past it. And so I'm right there in agreement with you. I do think, though, there is an element of not making yourself a fat fucking target. Well, forgive the language, but not making yourself like the biggest target on the world.
Yes.
And some guys do that when they Fed post and the cringiest stuff. That's and that's come on, guys, we're a little bit better than that. We can move on from there. And so, I guess moving on from, the Fed conversation, I want to give a bit of an intro of where you were at and kind of who you are.
Yeah.
One thing that you had mentioned to me that kind of caught me off guard, and I feel like the audience would probably appreciate hearing a bit more about, was, also to combat this narrative that the Trump assassination attempt was not staged. You were at that event, and kind of walk through what that was, and where you were even at with Trump in that moment in time, and what that was like, how that experience was.
Okay. So, and you did mention you might bring this up, and yeah, I'm willing to lay it out there for the audience. So, and I'll keep it brief. I'll hit the highlights here, so you guys don't fall asleep on me out there. So let's just real briefly, Trump 2016. If you were right wing and you didn't think he was awesome or at least kind of cool, then I don't know what you were doing. So I was on Trump train 2016. Choo choo, here we go. Fast forward, we got stolen election, J6. That emboldened me even more because I'm like, you know what? Forget, who cares if he likes Israel a little bit? I am so enthused with this guy. We're gonna get after it. We're gonna go. So Here we are, Trump rally, Butler, Pennsylvania. We're there. We get there super early, and it was a hot day. The heat index was like 110 degrees, so we're all tired. And Trump comes out late to the event. I think it was supposed to start at 5. He didn't show up until 6. So we waited all day, all stinking day, to see the man, Big Daddy Trump.
Right.
And all of a sudden, dude, wait, I hear gunshots, man. I hear gunshots going off, and I'm about 30 yards away from Trump. He's in front of us. The bleachers where some of the victims got injured were to my right, probably catty corner about 35, maybe 40 yards away. Well, when we heard those shots ring out, dude, I thought that shots were coming from the bleachers because I saw shrapnel flying off. Me and a couple of other strong men in the crowd, we look around and we're like, everybody get down. And then you just see the audience just like a wave hit the dirt. And then bam, 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 we hear more shots ring out. And the guy on the opposite side of the bleachers, he died, Corey Compatore. I guess they're still holding parades and benefit events for his family.
Yeah.
But we saw Trump, raise his fist in the air, and it was an instant relief over the crowd. You could feel the energy well back up. No one was even worried about being tired or hot anymore. We were all like, this is awesome. This is great.
Yeah.
And so that was a life-changing experience for me right there. Because I've been to the gun range numerous times, and I know what gunshots sound like. And it was the first time that I was anywhere where people were the targets. So soon after that, I mean, you guys, if you pay attention to politics at all, you know how the Trump, how do I want to say it, evolution has went since there. He is, the 12-day war with Iran. He's deporting not as many people as I'd like. Some people are still drinking the Kool-Aid and, love the guy. Absolutely love him. He can do no wrong whatsoever. Don't forget about Epstein, guys. I'm to the point to where I believe his life was spared that day, but I feel as if he is squandering it. He's throwing it away. It's like, and I thought, well, maybe, because I'm still on that hopium. I'm trying to inhale the hopium. And I'm like, maybe he is just playing his cards right. Maybe it really is 5D chess like those guys online say.
Yeah.
But then it hit me and I'm like, no, this dude is doing exactly what he wants. He thinks he is making all of the right moves. And he's not doing terrible, but he's not anything like I would have hoped for, if that makes sense. Do you feel me on that, dude?
I might even be worse than that. I'm very angry with them. I think the part that I'm most angry about, and I guess the part that I am most angry about is the fact that I was right before the election. I was like, I can't do it. I cannot do it. It's probably like 2 weeks before the election. And then eventually, I had a lot of people in my ear who were just like, you have to, incrementalism, the most important election of our lifetime, you have to. It's like, you can't not vote because that, we need as much power. And so I kind of bought into it, the final 2 weeks. And then this is what we got. So I almost feel guilty that in the final 2 weeks, I went against my own gut instinct and started telling my audience then, you know what, okay, incrementalism. And next thing you know, well, now we have a Jewish president and Israel runs this country. And so I'm just angry because it's I should have went with my gut instinct. I guess that's what I'm most angry about. But I'm curious because, So you're saying no, you don't think it was a staged event at all. You think that was very real.
Let's don't mince my words. I guess I really didn't elaborate on that. So
Okay,
yeah. So do I think that shots were actually fired? Yes, I do. I think that bullets rang out. The sound is unmistakable. If you guys have ever shot guns, you know what I'm talking about. Do I think that it was, oh, that's Secret Service, they were sleeping that day? How can a reasonable man believe that? How can a reasonable man not think that there was foul play? Like the kid was let up on the roof, whether he was a lone wolf or whether he was. They immediately deleted his Discord chat. They eliminated all internet record of this kid immediately after they identified the dead body.
Right.
And this it's another like I don't know if you would call it MK Ultra or CIA asset, but it's something, whether it was our intelligence agencies or someone else's. I feel like that was allowed to happen. Such with other mass shootings. I think that people really do die and people really do get shot. However, what was allowed to happen? What tragedy was allowed to transpire? I think it's one of those events. So I don't think it was fake bullets. I don't think, they put a blood pack on his ear and he grabbed it. Like,
right.
Brother, my wife locked eyes with a dude that just got shot in the chest. And I saw him getting carried away with a stretcher. So it's like,
he's okay.
It was real. But I also think like it was totally allowed to happen. It's the Secret Service of the United States government, and they didn't see across a huge open field. Like it's almost impossible.
And that's the part, which is like, then you would go to who allowed it to happen and who knew it was being allowed to happen. And then that would place it on like, was Trump even aware of these things? But it is kind of curious, a thing to revisit, obviously now after the fact. And I think Corey Mueller, he kind of nails it pretty well. It's kind of my positioning. Trump was spared. Trump was spared that day as a judgment, not for America, but against America, because here's what he's going to come bringing after the fact. Now that he's okay. And that's not to make fun of the event. Obviously I'm glad that he's okay, because that's not how, politics should be carried out at all. But that's just part of status quo, and generally the government's allowed to do those things, but people aren't. That's just the way that it is. And so, maybe you sounded like you were still on some hopium. What are some things that Trump could do that would put him back in your good graces?
Oh my gosh. Stop all foreign aid to Israel immediately. And then right after that. Oh, okay. I mean, I'm being real. Like, if we're being real, cut all foreign aid to Israel, right?
Yeah.
And then cut all foreign aid, period. I don't care if it is for, and I might sound, this is just me talking. I don't represent Atlas, and I'll keep it YouTube friendly, but I don't care if it's kids starving that we're giving the money to or what. Just cut it all. And then we can decide to build up our nation again. We build up our nation until we are a superpower again, because we have lost our superpower status. Like, I feel as if, I brought up Israel firsthand. America doesn't have Israel as a pawn. We are Israel's pawn. And if you can't see what's right in front of your face, guys, I don't know how to help you. I'm pretty sure your audience is in agreement with me to a certain extent, but
right.
That's where I'm at. That's the only thing he could do. But like you said, man, that's not realistic. So probably nothing, unless he deported them all, in quotes, deport them all. We might get somewhere. I might gain a little bit of respect for him, but that's where I'm at.
And I'm right there with you. And it's only getting worse. And they do all these gay things, right? The Panikins and Trust in the Plan and all that stuff. And, and it just hit me, I brought this up yesterday, and I won't rehash it too much, but I see the report, it's like, it's totally not off the table that, the U.S. may have boots on the ground in Ukraine, and it's like, dude, this is so far and away. It's not even just like we're not getting what we voted for. It's like, here's the opposite. Here's the exact opposite of what you wanted. And then I see today, you can't, I mean, again, you can't make it up. And so I verified, right? So I looked at the U.S. Customs and Immigration Services press release, and no joke, the IDF is coming in to recruit American Jews for IDF to help with their all-out takeout of Gaza. They're also going to France too, but again, most people don't realize the largest Jewish population outside of Israel is in the United States, right? It's around like, it's around 6 million. and then
Accurate number?
Yeah, you did hear a number.
Okay.
And then,
Okay.
and then France, I think, is second. And they're at like, I think it was like 450,000. So we're by far the largest Jewish population. And you just, you gut instinct, everything obviously points to doing everything in Israel's interest. But the part that blew me away was, as I read the report, and I'm going to get it on screen here because I think people need to actually see this.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can share this real quick. But while I'm finding it, so it's the UCIS press report that came out, and I wanted to verify it was the right thing. And what it is it's all under the guise of anti-American. Let me see if I can find this, the right one here.
Yeah, go ahead, look it up there. While you're pulling that up, dude, I don't know, I didn't look into it too much further, but I heard that those IDF soldiers that are being recruited. Now, this may be a tidbit of this story that you're going to cover, but these people, even though they're fighting for the IDF, they are going to get full U.S. military benefits. We are going to be footing the bill for their lifelong benefits. Our military members, they get benefits for life. So these soldiers will get the same benefits as someone who is actually part of our military. Dude, like, that is a slap in the face, dude.
Well,
you're fighting on, well, honestly, if you're in our military these days, you're probably fighting on behalf of Israel as it is. But at that point, you're fighting on behalf of another country under their flag, and you're getting our benefits. It's like, what kind of sick joke is that, man? That fired me up the other day. I saw a post, one of my buddies shared it. It was crazy, but
well, and on that note, while I'm thinking about it, before we go into this story here too, you know, that for one is absolute just effing BS. But secondly,
Yes.
I can't remember the guy's name. He does all of the financial like auditing on YouTube. His channel's been blowing up recently. He like talks to a bunch of like finances from people, and they'll say, this is how far in debt I am. He's a younger guy. I can't think of what his name is. Somebody in the chat will probably know who I'm talking about. But what people were realizing as some more and more of his videos are getting popular, there's a lot of people who are getting paid, you know, $5,000 a month, $7,000 a month. Sometimes it's like $9,000. It can be low as like 2,700 or so. But they're for veterans who never served, like never went overseas, and it's all like under the guise of like Caleb Hammer. Thank you, Donnie. And it's all under the guise of like medical, and so we have this extremely bloated system. And I kind of thought about that, where it's like, yeah, I don't think that it's sustainable to be paying $7,000 a month to people who never went overseas, right? But are like inside the VA system. I'd have to look into it a bit more. But I thought that, again, another one of these areas we have to look at this. But I'm going to make this a bit bigger so everybody can see it on screen here. This is the press release from the USCIS to consider anti-Americanism an immigrant benefit request. And as you go through here, and I'll try to make it a bit bigger if I can. Pull it up with some. One of these paragraphs in here specifically outlines the fact that they don't actually have a definition of anti-Americanism. It's this bigger one right here. And what they do, though, is they say, well, what we do have definitions for is anti-Semitism, anti-Semitic terrorism, and anti-Semitic terrorist organizations. And so they basically say there's no definition for it. But what they will do is they're going to, they'll just go ahead and use anything that would fall under anti-Semitism. And that's going to be what we're screening for. So that was the press release. And so I'm curious, what are your thoughts when you hear that instead of worrying about the racial demographics of the country, we're more concerned with screening people for their anti-Semitic remarks on social media before we let them in the country?
How soon until it's not just the immigrants who are trying to get in here? How soon until it is the American citizens, to where they're looking at remember that tracking device I showed you earlier? They're looking at that and they are coming, hey, you committed anti-Semitism. We're coming for you. And you could Google this at home or whatever, but I do believe the definition of anti-Semitism in there somewhere, it says it is an ever-changing definition.
Right.
And if any of you guys are J-pilled out there, you know that almost anything could be considered anti-Semitism. You know, it's a grim future. What potential future? It's a grim potential future there. But that's wild, man. It doesn't surprise me though. It really doesn't.
No, it doesn't at all. And, and it grinds my gears. And I think part of what began to actually accelerate my radicalism was I read through front to back HR 6090. And then I started learning about the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. And then I started doing more and more digging. And I can't tell you, like the lightning that went through my body when I saw that they were going to outlaw certain Bible verses for their anti-Semitic remarks. I mean, like I about ignited, and then things began to extremely click. It started really kind of like connecting the dots, and that's when I began to realize, like, yeah, Christianity's in a battle for its survival. And until people can understand that there are elements of Islam, Muslim, and Judaism that are extremely prominent behind the scenes and on the back end of a lot of the decisions and a lot of the governmental policies that get made, I mean, nothing will ever happen. And this is kind of what I tried to articulate to Tyler yesterday, which was, the more I was getting involved in politics, the more I was listening and the more I was kind of paying attention, hearing a lot from like Tim Pool and like the Daily Wire crew. But then seeing what was happening in real life and like what I was experiencing, it's like, well, they're not talking about the fact that like, the black population is like literally just out of this world right now in terms of crime rates and what the culture, what they got going on, but no mention of it on there. And I began to realize like they have to be, whether the controlled opposition or whatever, bad faith actors, whatever, it's clear they're set up in a way that they are not going to give you the information that you need to be able to articulate what's going on and have a good framing of what the actual problem is. They keep everybody in the left versus right, Republicans versus Democrats kind of wing. Whereas it's actually more so good versus evil, Christianity versus Islam versus Judaism versus, Hinduism. Those are the stronger elements. And people have stronger ties to what their religion is, their ethnicity is, than they do like what their idea of what an American is. And so I'm curious if you had any kind of similar journeys through that, and where has your kind of Christian faith taken you in terms of escalating your radicalism?
That very, very similar, to answer your question. Very similar. If it wasn't, so I think, hold on, let me collect myself here. So I got sort of introduced to the thought of this cabal, this secret globalist organization, back whenever I stumbled upon Alex Jones back in I might have been in my teens at this point. But I was like, wow, there's really the powers that be, the Illuminati, until you kind of grow up and you can do a simple Google search and you can find out this information that we're speaking to.
Right.
And then it got me looking at the power structures around the United States and how they interact globally, and how most of the major countries' leaders all have the same interests as this one little nation state that was made in 1948. And then from there, I've always been a professing Christian. I haven't been the best Christian my whole life, mind you.
Same.
Up until recently, there was probably a decade period where I was really bad into drugs, an addict. I had to go to rehab twice for that one. But at this point, I'm 7 years clean. I'm married. And thanks to the movement of Christian nationalism, I started going to church again. I'm praying daily. I have faith in Christ. And the people that I found out ruled everything, they hate that. They absolutely hate that. They're trying. You mentioned the outlawing Bible verses. Whenever I heard about that, dude, I was like, no way. And then hearing about, I don't think it got passed, but over in Israel, they actually were going to outlaw preaching the gospel in public. I think this might have been in 2023.
Yeah.
But there's still legislation in place to prohibit that. And then what really made me passionate, not just like, oh, this is interesting, but what really made me passionate about it was finding that out, that it is good versus evil. It's not just, well, hey, everything's expensive because of those guys, and I need to work my best to do. This is good versus evil. All the evil things you see the right wing complaining about online or in the news that are, kind of socially degenerate, they're all pushed by the same group. And, not always, but kind of always, guys, kind of always. But that's, once I realized it was good versus evil, dude, just like you said, that's whenever it was like, we got to make a change. We have to get out there and do something.
Right. Well, I think that one of the ways that I thought about it too was, because people always make that joke about Alex Jones, right? He's like, it's the Chi-Coms.
Yeah, globalists.
It's the globalists.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking like along the lines of like, well, wait a minute. Everything that we're seeing, right, from Taylor Swift to Black culture to pretty much the vast majority of it, has two main elements to it. One, Christianity is subverted from the inside, meaning that the people you would expect to be defending it and coming out and rebuking things aren't, because they're female deacons praying to some, effeminate god, like it's just like it's a heretical thing. But on the outside, you would go, it's the Satanist. But then I think about it and I'm like, what Satanists have meaningful power, right? Like it's like they don't. And then I began to piece it together a little bit more, and I was like, well, wait a minute, what does the Talmud say about Jesus? And then I was like,
I don't think that's YouTube friendly.
Now I was like, I was thinking about it, I'm like, I was curious, right? Yeah, and that's wild, right? Posing a question, being like, what does this other faith say about my God? Right? Yeah. And not even my God, our God. And that's when it really started, I was going light speed. I think Red 5 Jedi, I hope I'm saying his name right, has that very viral meme. Yeah, where it's the Pepe Frog clicking on the 9/11 rabbit hole, and it just flies through like 20 years of history. That to me was what really started beginning to connect the dots. And it's crazy because it is the most basic rule of all time. If you wish to know who rules over you, look to those you cannot criticize. And there's basically one group left on earth in America you can't criticize. I mean, that's basically it. Like, and I think when you look at it by elimination, and you can kind of see from 2020 to 2023, they began to really start backing off on like COVID, started really backing off on trans, and they started in the last year backing off on Black. And then it basically leaves really just like one kind of like largely protected group. And I think from there, you can make some stronger inferences, pair that with what you see, gut feeling, what Trump is doing, what every politician is swearing fealty to, and you go, okay, all right, clearly there's an element here that this country's got a lot more power and a lot more institutional kind of influence but than what they should. But not to spend too much time on that, I wanted to move to a bit more of an elephant in the room, which I do think was brought up a little bit with the Candace Owens and Nick debate, which Corey Muller is also a pretty strong proponent of, which is, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on race mixing.
Okay. So let me just say right off the bat, it is not for me, right? I believe that God created the races unique and special and beautiful and powerful, all in their own ways. I shouldn't have to say this, but as a disclaimer, I don't think that all races that aren't white should be wiped off the planet. Hey, sorry if I disappointed some of you guys on Twitter, but I think that the life that I want, the life that I'm trying to propagate into reality, that is the life that I want for every other race. You guys can be the best you can be, just like I want to be the best we can be. You know, I don't want to necessarily be exclusionary in the workforce or whatever the case may be. I'm not asking for Jim Crow, but as far as intentional communities go, like Return to the Land with Eric Arval or Eric Orwell, whatever his actual name is, I think that we, as individuals, whether you're black, white, Asian, whatever, if you want to have that intentional community where you can be around your own people and thrive with your own people and make babies with your own people, then you should be allowed to do it without discrimination against you. You shouldn't be seen as hateful for wanting to support and love your own people. It's so to answer your question more succinctly, nah, man, race mixing's for the birds. We don't need none of that. No race mixing ever. You heard it here from Adam, Mainstream Dissident.
Well, listen,
that's just me, man.
No, I agree. I agree with a lot of what you said there. And I think the powerful part is the preamble. It's because I don't want to be around them doesn't mean I hate them. I want harm to come to them. Like I want their countries to fail. Like what are we doing here? You know, at a certain point, it's like, hey, you know, these gay bars are allowed to do their own thing, right? They put gay bar, you know, in the title and the description because they're giving an outward signal that like, hey, this is the kind of crowd that we want to be in. You know, this is the kind of crowd that like we're trying to be a part of. This is who we're for. But it's when you go to race, or it really, I mean, a lot of other things, but largely race, it's like, oh, nope, can't do that. And I'm glad you brought up Arvel because I'm glad that he is doing that, because I do think that the freedom of association needs to be challenged a bit more legally. I was kind of hoping that the AG was going to sue him because I was hoping that Arvel would take it to the Supreme Court.
You are an accelerationist, brother.
Yeah, I am. Because the thing is if we would have gotten the ruling that no, you don't have the freedom of association in this country, I mean, then people really start to ask questions, right? Because then people are really going to start to be like, hey, you're seriously telling me that I can't freely decide who I want to be around? Because then how does that apply to women, right? You know, women are no longer going to be able to have a say of like, oh, hey, men can't be around them because women aren't allowed to freely associate amongst themselves. I mean, it's just a joke. And I'm glad that I think House is the one who pointed this out to me because, you know, Clarence Thomas had said previously at some point, I don't remember who had asked him, but he basically said like he would like to take a look at the civil rights because he thinks it's unconstitutional, the way that it attacks your freedom of association. And so that's already one. So we can couple them other justices. And then what do you think would happen if America was to repeal the Civil Rights Act? Because, you know, on the surface, for people who are headline readers, right, who can't go any deeper, cannot be bothered to read any deeper than the headline, they're going to see that and they're going to think that the Grand Wizard just took office, you know? So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, immediately, if the Civil Rights Act was repealed, I'm telling you what, there's going to be some Targets burnt down. There's going to be some Wendy's burnt down. Have you ever seen footage of the BLM riots? Because it would be exactly like that.
Yeah.
It would be a whole bunch of leftists being like, "This is an infringement. We can't do anything anymore." It's like that would just free things up because no one's saying, "Well, hey, you got to drink out of that short water fountain now." But we're saying, hey, no one, based on race, no one deserves these extra little hangouts or diversity quotas or anything of that nature. We shouldn't need that to function as a society. And you might say to argue against me, well, yes, we do because of guys like you, Adam. Well, no, if you have the wherewithal to behave and succeed in modern society, then you have it and you can do it. And I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying that, well, all black people act a certain way and all Asians act a certain way, but stereotypes exist for a reason. We do have racial differences and, you know, it's real. There's plenty of terrible white people I know. I was actually talking about some of them to my wife before the start of the show. But yeah, civil rights gets repealed, dude. There's going to be some Wendy's on fire by first hour, brother. First hour. It's mark my words. There's going to be pallets of bricks in all major cities being dropped off.
Which is hilarious because I think everybody knows that's true, just on the surface. And you're right, you know, and I meant to bring this up even a little bit, forgive me, yesterday, because during those early era riots, you know, with BLM and a lot of what had happened, you know, it was just chaos. I remember I was right after my surgery getting my tonsils removed. We were going to a Kroger. And at this Kroger, we had to pick up the medication, and it was an awful day for me, right? So I had tonsillitis really bad, recently got them removed. I was in a bunch of pain, but everything was all disjointed because I had to pay out of pocket. So like I had to go to the one ENT specialist, had to drive like an hour to go to this other place, then I had to drive like 30 minutes to pick up my prescription. So 2 hours after surgery, I have no post anything. So like my whole head is like swelling. I'm in a bunch of pain. Finally get to the Kroger, I'm super excited. So I'm just like, please give me the medication, man. I'm dying. We get the medication, get back in the car. I take it, and like I couldn't be bothered. Like at this point, I'm like, thank God, you know, this like last week is finally over. I'm starting to feel good. We look out on the street, and it is just a line of protesters marching for George Floyd. And we got boxed into the Kroger parking lot for, I think it might have been like 20, 30 minutes. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, had this been just before we got here to Kroger, I would be getting out of my vehicle fighting these people because like I need to go to Kroger. And so I was like, you know, for one, thank God that like I was able to get in before the line went. But then I'm just thinking like all these other people whose lives are being, you know, messed up and destroyed. And you see it all the time too, right? With like the ambulance that got stuck there in the UK not too long ago during a protest, and the people died in the back because they just couldn't make it through traffic. And half the time they're protesting about, you know, here it's for BLM stuff and for black people anger things. In the UK, it's like the climate change stuff. Like that would probably bother me more, honestly. Like you're going to block my way to work because you care about the climate. Like get out of here, dude. I'd throw them around. But with that, you know, I do think that's what we would see. My only kind of pushback to that would be, why do you think then we didn't see nearly the same level of destruction when Roe v. Wade got taken down?
Because it didn't, at least the perception in people's minds, the perception on the forefront of people's minds is that it didn't directly affect non-whites. It affected everyone. If you repeal civil rights, well, that affects everyone besides white people. So as far as Roe v. Wade being repealed, it affected the whole population, but there wasn't that implication. It wasn't a staunchly pro-white move. It was a pro-everybody move, in my opinion, to get rid of Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
The fact that it wasn't race-related, probably. I mean, I know a few leftists in my life that were pretty upset when that happened.
Right.
But yeah, that's. I mean, if you want to kill your baby, you're going to have to drive for it, which is terrible to even say. But yeah, you better fill up a tank of gas and head on out there, sister. God bless you. Good luck.
Well, yeah, I guess the only reason I think I kind of thought about it was because we know who the majority of, you know, percentage wise, a lot of black women get abortions.
Statistically, yes.
And so I guess I was curious on those ends why we didn't see more of that same kind of level of chaos. But I think you are right. You know, largely the overall issue is non-racial. It's largely just female, you know, without a race element in there. But I do think you're actually right about that.
And you know what, buddy? I don't think that people realize that shocking statistic that most abortions are black women.
Right.
They're 90. It's either, depending on the stats you look at, it's either 98 or 99% elective. So these young ladies know what they're doing, but it's a lack of awareness on the overwhelming majority's part. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, you're good. You know, and on top of that too, you know, I think a lot of people don't understand per capita stuff as well too. But the crazy one that gets me is the overall number, the aggregate number, which I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's like all wars ever by men. It was like some crazy number. It's like all the billions of people of every war that's ever been started by men since like this certain year. And then it's like women and abortion the last like 30 years. And it's like, there are these comparable numbers. It's like this crazy statistic. Because when you put
You're talking about the death toll.
Yeah, the death toll.
Yes.
And it's like, it's some insane statistic. And it's only like, it's basically like 20, 30, 40 years compared to thousands of years. And the statistic is, it's so mind boggling. It's such a blight on our society. But I guess moving, one last thing on the race thing, then I guess what's the goal then to maybe convince those who are in Joel Webbin's camp who are unwilling to take those extra steps to where you are? Because I guess I'm curious, because I think Corey Mulder might even be a little bit too far right on the race issue, that it's not politically palatable in a way that we need it to be to advance the movement. I guess if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And I could agree with that to a certain extent, but I don't think that we as a group should talk I don't want to say talk poorly, but really bring down those who, take it too far. The left never takes down their people that take it too far. And guess what? They're winning. They're winning the culture war. They're winning everything. So I think personally that Corey, he's entitled to his opinion. And if he views the world that way, which is even more extreme than I do, then that's fine. But to answer, that's fine. Let him cook. Let the man cook. But as far as getting those people, well, as you gave the example of the Joel Webbin camp, to kind of be pushed a little further to understand, well, wait, race is real, and race does matter, and race can affect a society as a whole across the board. We need to get back to biblical Christianity instead of this like, hey man, Jesus just said to like be vaguely nice to people. That's like the only commandment, man. It's like tolerance is not a Christian virtue, dude. And it's in me saying that, I can't be out here quoting scripture. Like I mentioned earlier, former drug addict, my brain's fried. I can't remember shit. But we have to get back to biblical Christianity. We have to get back to reality. We gotta, hey, I'll take the Christianity, hold the Judeo. And I think we would see a huge breakthrough. And there's people much more knowledgeable than I, a standard deviation higher, if you will, that are making strides in that movement. But you mentioned Corey and you mentioned Nick here. They're both great in their own way. I feel like the right, while we do have our flaws and nobody's perfect, we have some key players in place that are pushing this Overton window further to the right, and I love to see it. Bring on the extremists. Let's go, guys. You guys get up here and you say your piece. Go ahead, and then hopefully we'll meet somewhere closer over here instead of all the way over there. That's my thought behind the whole deal.
And the thing is you listen to somebody like Corey speak compared to, I don't know, basically anybody to the left of him, and it's like, dude, this guy commands a presence of intellect that is not that widely seen among, let alone average people, but also just like other podcasters. And so, the dude comes on to all these debates, and it's like the most calm, like, oh yeah, definitely. And he's just annihilating people's worldviews. And he largely, I will credit him this, he has been the one who has drugged me over the hump on the racial realism views. And I think it was specifically the IQ one and largely about the Christianity aspect of IQ. And that much, I can't tell you how much that makes such sense that like, I don't even know if I need a 70 IQ to understand that. It just makes sense naturally. And largely the idea there being that some of these concepts in Christianity, we kind of know that there's a hierarchy where a lot of these church fathers really had to wrestle with understanding, interpreting, and kind of outlining like what these ideas are. And that's why a lot of the church fathers have strong kind of, you can go look and see what they said back, 17 whatever, 16 whatever, 15 whatever. And the idea there being that if you have a population that is basically capped and it's an extreme outlier for them to get an IQ of around even 125, 135, then some of these concepts that do require like an IQ of like 165 to be able to discern, articulate, break apart, and give to somebody in a way that they could understand it. I mean, yeah, it's like, I think there is a requirement where it's like, okay, yeah, maybe there are certain elements that, especially in Christianity, would require a level of assistance where it's like, we would be actually having to go on missions, to Africa and help explain some of these ideas. And it's crazy how deep that can go, So shout out again to Corey Muller. And again, something like one of those things I'm still wrestling with. But I guess on that note, though, we'll go to somebody else who's a co-host of somebody I will be interviewing next week, which is Michael Spangler. I'll be interviewing Michael Spangler next week, talking a bit more about Christian race realism in his book. But I feel like I have this in here, and I wish I remembered why, but I think you are followed by him. Maybe you're mutuals with him. Cody Justice. That is the co-host of Old Paths podcast with Michael Spangler and Cody Justice. So kind of give me a breakdown. Who are these two guys, these up and comers in the Christian space?
So let me speak to Michael Spangler and first here, and congrats. That's awesome. I love that you're having him on.
Yeah.
Michael Spangler, he is a very, very learned man. He is a pastor. You can tell by the words that he says and his actions that he is a Christian through and through. He has a more eloquent and gentle way of explaining race realism through the lens of Christianity, and he does an amazing job. I cannot talk highly enough about Michael Spangler. He is a great man. The conversations that him and I have had back and forth are great. Like, he is a good dude.
That's awesome.
His co-host, Cody Justice, you guys got to tune in for Atlas's stream with Mike. It's he's a very prim and proper stoic man, but awesome. It'll be a good time. Yeah, you feel me on that?
Yeah, no, I watched Zeb's interview with him, and I was pretty impressed with that.
Yeah.
And I looked at his book. I wish I had the money. I would buy it outright. But I looked into some of his book, and once again, it's one of those things where, judging somebody by their accuser, I look him up, and I don't get the first result that's positive about him until it's like the fifth one down. It's like all of these other people who are screaming about his church or saying he shouldn't be a pastor. And then it's like 5 spots down. It's like, oh, there's his X account. Like, okay, there's Michael Spangler. I can figure out who it is.
Yeah.
And so it's clear there's obviously an attempt to bury him and root for his failure because they don't want those kind of voices to become prominent. And for Cody Justice, though, he's the co-host. And I'm curious because I don't know really anything about him at all. I think I follow him on Twitter now, but I'm curious, if you know a little bit about him.
Yes, I do. He's involved with multiple projects, not just with Michael Spangler, but on his own and in conjunction with Mike Spangler. Cody's a really good dude. I'm actually going to have him on my show here upcoming on Tuesday.
That's awesome.
It's going to be my first video stream ever, and it won't be live. It'll be pre-recorded, but regardless. So Cody, he is another stoic dude, a very to the book, very, very smart men. Both him and Mike are very intelligent. But Cody, he has the Sacra Press, the publishing company, which you mentioned buying Spangler's book on there, which you can do. But if you're a reader, check out Sacra Press for some Christian nationalist content. He's also does the Old Paths podcast. We'll go into more depth about his other I don't want to say projects, but projects.
Yeah.
Whenever he gets on my show, but he's a great guy. Both of these dudes are wonderful Christian men, and I think the reason they're Atlas, why you see all this slander, is because there's no logical argument to defeat what both Cody and Mike say. There's no logical Christian argument to refute what they say. So when you can't outright refute what someone says, you can't call them a liar. What do you have to do to discredit them? You turn to slander. So these two men have been slandered beyond belief. Two of the most God-fearing, God-loving men that I have ever crossed paths with.
That's awesome.
Are slandered to hell and back. And it's like, if you when you see this guy on Atlas's show, you're gonna be like, this guy's the nicest man I've ever met.
Right.
But it's that slander factor, and that's what kind of kept me from showing my face for so long, is expressing these views. I am risking getting slandered so bad, dragged through the mud. I'm risking all kinds of doxing, you name it. You know, your face is out here.
Yeah.
But we do it because we want the world to know what's right and what's just.
Right.
We want to be on the righteous side of history. We want people to live in the truth. We want people to return to Christ. We want people to wake up and realize that they don't have to be little pansy baby hippie boys sitting on their butts just crying about everything. We can take back this country man by man, one by one. We can do this, and it's uplifting to see you gain so much traction recently, because this messaging, dude, this needs to get out there, man.
Right. No, and well, for one, part of me thinks I might be with the one that slipped through the cracks, but we'll see as as time goes on. And you're right on that, right? It's poisoning the well. It's very similar tactic to what they did with Nick, which is it's so over the top. It's so much that anyone who may even be halfway kind of like tempted to like, well, should I listen to what he has to say? They're just not going to, because it's so much overt that if someone were to even see you watching it, they would straight up go, they'd go, oh, wow, you're one of those guys? You're watching him? And it's like, yeah, because that's the level at which they will go to go poison that well. But no, yeah, again, and I appreciate you saying those good words about him, because I kind of got the same exact vibes. Listening to him talk to Zeb,
yes,
it's like made me feel like trailer trash. I was like, man, I gotta spiffy up the way I talk.
Yeah, they're very, very great speakers, and it's. I don't know if they have word of the day calendars or what, but they those boys use some big words right there, brother. They're two great guys, good allies to have in this movement. So you got a good head on your shoulders getting them on, bud.
Well, listen, I'm glad that you said that, because after listening to, I think it was his, and I think I might listen to Jeff Younger shortly after that, I went and I was like, do I need to put a Discord bot that's like a word of the day? I need to like start doing something so I have more vocabulary. I use too many words of the same. But I wanted to go to another area too, because we brought him up already with Nick. I know it's like you either love him or you hate him. Where are you at with Nick?
So, I love the guy, you know, and on my online presence, my little Mainstream Dissident account on X, I have not been groyping out there, because he's just a man. I love what he's doing, but he's just a man. I don't obsess over him, just like I don't obsess over that one painter from the 1930s from Austria. I don't obsess about Corey Muller. I don't obsess about these guys, but I view them as a almost a reflection of what can I take from these men? Yeah. What can I learn from these men? What are they saying that's good? And what are they saying that is moving the cause that I know is right in my heart forward? So I like Nick a lot. I actually met him in person once. It wasn't at an AFPAC event, but it was at, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name. It was in DC. It was Groyper something too. It was one of his meetups. It was a real small meetup.
Interesting.
Dude, it was in this hotel room. So get this, man. Okay, here's another cool story.
So
I'll be brief. I won't.
Groyper. You're like,
bro,
hardcore
I'm
Groyper
like,
here.
so I'm like, and I'm not trying to be all egotistic here. I am the perfect combination of Groyper, Wignat, Christian nationalist, National Socialist. It's all in this little tiny short Aryan package you got here, bud. But
it's funny, because I was going to say, I picked up a bit more of the NatSoc kind of vibes from you. Compared to some of the other people I've had on the show.
Dude, and guys, do not roast me. And whoever's watching this that just heard me say that, don't hate me because I like someone. I'm still cool with you guys. You might think I'm an idiot for liking Fuentes, but guess what? I do. Sorry, kids.
I was going to say, is anybody,
But
I don't think anyone's flamed you yet. No, it looks like
oh no,
Groyper, I hardly know her.
hey, Groyper, hardly know her.
That's
Attaboy.
funny. That's a good one. And you know, well, I guess
go ahead.
What I was going to say back to that was I kind of saw same things. You know, I talked about this a little bit with Tyler. I lurked for probably about 2 years before I really started to be more vocal where my position was. Because I wanted to be sure I wasn't going to walk into something that I was going to be like regret. And the more and more that I lurked and the more I paid attention, the more I was like, nah, like the Groypers are me. Like I am a Groyper. Yeah. I was like, even if it didn't exist, I was like, where I am positionally and how I feel and how I behave online, like it just like I fall under that category. Now maybe I wouldn't go as intense as some of them do, but again, like you had said, right, take it for what it is. I'm not going to respond to every Candace Owens tweet and tell her to make her a sandwich, but I appreciate the guys who do, and they should be.
Yeah,
you know? So like
correct.
There's elements of that you can take from and go. There's clearly a good portion of this, and I think one of the common pushbacks though that happens is people say, "Internet is not real life," or this means nothing. But at the same time, we're watching as Charlie Kirk slowly brings in Groyping talking points and acts as if no one noticed. And it's like, yeah, it's because the internet is very indicative of people's thoughts online. And it's the best place to vocalize them out of, you know, and better than on the street. And so I'm curious, is there a level though of where you would say the internet's not important for this, or are you full send, internet's where it's at, push momentum as far as we can?
So if the internet wasn't real life, then why do so many things from the internet and TV, the internet, before the internet, it was all TV, we shape the thoughts and the minds of everyone across the nation. People don't get upset about anything until they see something online or see something in the news. Guys, the internet's real life, because guess what? We're all here collectively. And if you're just out there being like, oh, I don't care, I guess the price of eggs are a little higher. Hey, good on you. Good on you. Have fun going extinct. But us guys that are real and out there looking at current events and looking at reality unfolding right in front of us, you know, yeah, the internet's pretty freaking real, dude. I don't know. I'm real. I'm real. You're real.
Yeah, right. No, and that's what I was kind of saying, you know, like it's wild that people say that when it was like, I can remember in 2014 when ESPN is showing people's tweets on SportsCenter, because like clearly we're looking at that as like this is a forum where you can find public figures saying their positions, and then ESPN will clip those posts and put them on there. So clearly there's some relevancy there. I think it's ultimately just it's the cope for a lot of these boomers and boomer-minded and spiritually boomerish people that there's no way that people are this radical. And I maybe it's partially because they're not the ones who are terminally online. But I think for anyone who's terminally online, it is hard to ignore what has been happening over the last year. And hopefully it just goes away, right? I'm hoping that we can kind of get away from these just, for lack of better words, retarded copes. Like, you know, Charlie Kirk's still sitting there saying Nick's an internet troll. That's why he's not going to debate him. It's like, come on, dude. It's like, when we find better excuses, you have the whole country of Israel behind you, dude. Like, you didn't have one better Mossad generated excuse? Like, and so I'm just, to me, it's I find it laughable as well. And I'm right there with you. Like, the internet is very indicative. There is an element where I would say like X and some other places maybe are a bit more echo chambery. And so maybe aren't purely reflective of the demographic, you know, parallels, because I would imagine that, you know, 50% of America is not a Groyper, but maybe 20% of them are. Because X is probably like 50% Groyper ran at this point. Right? They're kind of like dominating the
literally
platform. And it's cool, and I love to see it. But I guess you would say then, no, do you claim the Groyper tag, or no? Do you hold back from that?
I don't come out I mean, it's not in my bio. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So I don't go around to every Tom, Dick, and Harry and say, "Hey, have you heard about Nick Fuentes? Hey, you got to check this out." But I catch most shows. If someone were to label me just meeting me for the first time and they even knew what that word was, they probably would call me a Groyper, not knowing some of the more intricate thoughts and belief systems that I hold. But yeah, I think Groypers are Nick's strongest allies. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't consider myself an ally of Nick, but I wouldn't call myself a Groyper. Some people are going to call me a Groyper, but
Right.
I don't think that it's a slur. Hey, make sure you say Groypa because that's their word. But
That's funny. I never even thought about it like that. That's funny.
yeah.
And so I guess to move off from there, we'll go to a bit more some that's like, topical news.
Yes.
And it's back in the discussion, right? We are back where we were leading up to 2024. Is incrementalism versus accelerationism. And I'm kind of curious, where are you at? What side of the aisle do you fall on?
Oh my. Okay, dude. The side of me that wants to stay comfortable and stay happy and stay relaxed. I want incrementalism. I just want to ease on in. I want to dip my toe into the pool. And, if it's too cold, well, I guess I'm not swimming today. But then the side of me that is passionate about this movement and wants the world to see reality as it is. I am like getting ever so close to just being that accelerating force. Not by violent means, not by crazy radical means, but just like, come on. We're living through the nothing ever happens camp. We're living through their dystopian world right now because something's got to happen, but nothing will ever happen unless we make something happen. Because nothing ever happens if you think about it, dude.
I think the funniest thing I've ever seen is that meme where it's like, he's there. He's waiting for me. And the guy like looks down at the end of the hall and it's a nothing ever happens guy. And it's like down all the doors is like all the years of history. And he's just sitting there waiting. At the end, it gets me good. Same one with like the, I think it's the Thanos meme. He's like, I don't fear much, but I do fear that thing. And it's the nothing ever happens, Chud. Like there's so many of them. It's good. But I do think like part of me thinks that there's a level of that like has now reached maybe it's like a meta meme where we all kind of convince ourselves that nothing ever happens. But this kind of tracks with what you hear from people like Eric Prince and many other people who are around a lot of these areas that are under like, that get unstable revolution, that it seems like nothing's happening at all. And then it is. And then that's just how it is. I mean, it's like slow. I think what's the saying? Slow, then suddenly. And that's all it really takes, man. If a bomb came in or went off somewhere and we didn't know if it was a foreign source, like things would immediately start to, rapidly kind of, pick up and be extreme, especially if it was like in cyber as well. If you imagine like, maybe 3 whole states, right? California, Oregon, and Washington got a cyber attack that shut down their water supply and they couldn't get it turned back on. There's a lot of things that can happen that would quickly turn into something is happening. I'm an accelerationist though.
Right on.
There's no part of me anymore that cares about incrementalism. And the way I kind of see it now is because there are so many incrementalisms, like people who believe in incrementalism, that I feel like I'm in the minority with as an accelerationist. And to that end, you're just going to get faster incrementalism, maybe. Because you have guys like me who are pushing harder for things to accelerate. I would hope that would bring people who are incrementalists to be like, okay, well, to combat the guys who want to burn the whole thing down, we need to take longer strides, not baby steps, but longer strides. So that's why I'm a bit more comfortable with just going, Gavin Newsom 2028. All right, let's do it. I guess for me, I'm not voting for JD Vance. And there's no argument that anyone could lay down. Nothing. And now I know the Peter Thiel angle, and I looked into it a little bit because Gavin Newsom has gotten some financial backing from Peter Thiel. So it is kind of like a Thiel versus Thiel election. So, but even on those ends, it's like, I'm not going to give Vance my vote, my voice, my saying. And so I'm curious, are you still willing to, just close your eyes, hold your nose, and drop in JD in the ballot box?
No, I am not. So as of right now, as it stands right now, and I know there's a few years until the next presidential election, I am not voting. I'm not going to vote. I will protest my vote. And one of my close friends, Zeb, said today on his show, he's like, it's your duty to vote. You should at least vote third party, to show them like, hey, here's the vote. Here's what matters. This is what I chose. But I'm to the point where I'm done with it. Vote harder. Like, hey, maybe if we just vote harder, then we can change things. And it's like, dude, in my 32 years of life, voting, the only thing it's done is gotten the country incrementally more expensive and incrementally more degenerate. So it's like, well, I thought voting was supposed to change stuff. Well, it doesn't. But if we don't vote, then nothing's going to happen. But okay, well, nothing ever happens anyway. So it's like, let me backtrack. When you were talking about accelerationism, I was just feeling in my chest like, dude, I yearn for civilizational collapse. I really do. Like deep down, I think it would be, and it's messed up to say, I think it would be awesome because I'd like to believe that I'm prepared enough at my home and I have enough wherewithal to survive something like that.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to throw that out there while I had a burning desire to say it. But as far as voting, my friend, I am not voting. I'm not voting. I might try to unregister as a Republican if that's possible. Would I be an independent then? I don't know.
Yeah, well, man, I'd have to go and dig it up because Glenn Beck actually got in trouble for this a long time ago because he discovered there's some kind of governmental, I don't know if it still exists, but there's some kind of governmental mechanism where it actually will help benefit the party who has the least amount of registered voters under it. I'd have to go back in time, but that's like way back from Obama era. I'd have to go look at it. But who knows if that even is a thing anymore, but that's just a side point. And I on the acceleration aspect, that I think the part that makes me very angry, the most angry about it, is it's the same people who won't move to the accelerationist position will go, founding father this, constitution this. And it's like, you mean the same guys who, while their own children were turning them in, their wives were trying to lie and cheat and go behind their back and turn them in. All the sacrifices they were willing to take for the country that you get to reap all the benefits of are unwilling to make even a halfway attempt to do anything similar in the light of what they did. Now, I will say they did not do accelerationism in terms of the way it would fall under the definition, right? Because accelerationism is basically you're maxing out and overloading all your systems to capacity to force it to shut down. They did not do that. They said, we're going to hold rifles and fire at you. They're like, who cares about voting for the system? Like, we're just going to take it over from you guys. And so there's a bit of a differing element there, but the point stands to be made that you have a lot of people in the Republican Party who sit there and constantly will gloat over the Constitution and the founding fathers and everything that we have that's America, but ignore the level of the sacrifices, consequences, and decisions that they had to make in those periods of time to do and accomplish what we reap the benefits of. And that bothers me the most because we know that there's a lot of these apocryphal sayings that's largely attributed to Ben Franklin, but a revolution every 20 years. That was in their mindset because they had seen how corruptible men were. They basically turned it over to people and said, hey, in 20 years, probably have to do this all over again because, power corrupts people and they're disgusting human beings. So expect that. And that's kind of where I'm at, where it's like to honor the men who built this country in the first place, I would like to do what I think as they would do. Now, I think they would do a lot worse than accelerationists if they were here right now. And I think that's the point. And I think the point is if you are unwilling to do the same things that the men who built this country did, then understand you are fundamentally less American than the men who built this country. And that is just what it is. You are less American than the men who built this. Because who could be more American than the guys who built the country? And so when I think about that, I think I want to be an American, and I want to be the truest sense of what it is to be an American. So giving my country back, or else. It's like that's kind of the mindset I'm in right now. I guess to move it away from that though, do you expect AOC to run in 2028?
I think that I've been so blinded by everyone saying Newsom, Vance. I was actually talking to one of my buddies at work today about this, and he said, wouldn't it be funny if it was like two off the wall oddball candidates that we never heard of? And I said, we came to the decision just for the lulz. They're probably just going to have Kamala and DeSantis run. Something ridiculous like that. But
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if AOC is going to throw her hat in the ring or not. She's still relatively young, so she can bide her time, and I think she can make more money in Congress through insider trading rather than putting all her chips on the table for presidency now. She needs people's short memories to fade long enough that she's not viewed as that dumb little bartender girl. She needs to be taken more seriously, I think, for her to stand a chance, if voting's even real. But that's my thoughts on AOC. Why do you bring up AOC? Because
I feel like if they were to really powerhouse it, they would have a Newsom AOC ticket against Vance.
Oh, okay. What Trump's all horny for Vance Rubio. That's what it is.
So if it's not Vance Rubio, it's probably Vance Hegseth, I think would probably be who they would roll with. That's kind of like my early thoughts. I also don't know what DeSantis is going to do. Thank you very much, Fedora operator. I missed that. I apologize. Thank you very much for the donation. Super chat. Because there's no way DeSantis runs again. Like, at this point right now, there's no way that he thinks that he could beat JD Vance as things sit right now, especially not off the back of Elon Musk giving his, full support to Vance by also announcing he's going to shut down the American X Party or whatever. They're not going to do it anymore. That makes me think that it's basically the tables are already set. I don't think we're going to have a very turbulent kind of primary series like we did last time. I think Newsom is clear the front runner for them. And that would possibly only change if maybe, not Pelosi, but if AOC was to enter the ring. But I don't think that she would try to run up against Newsom either. I think she would just attach herself to him. And I think Newsom is the kind of DEI politician who would easily take on AOC. He'd probably not even caring about who his VP is because he's just that kind of guy. At least that's kind of me trying to read into him as they are, as people, I guess I would say. But, to move away from the 2028 election, have you, I guess I'll first ask you, have you heard and read about the AZAPAC that has been led by Michael Rechtenwald?
Yes, the AZAPAC. It's, I wish they would have went American Anti-Zionist PAC, a political action conference, instead of, like you said, AZAPAC. They should have just made it AZPAC. It would have been a lot more smooth, a lot more succinct. But yeah, I've heard of it.
So that's funny.
AZPAC.
Yeah. So with that though, clearly there is this political action committee being built in opposition to AIPAC. And they highlighted a lot of their goals there, right? So, and I have them listed here, right? So this is basically from their mission statement. I broke it down, 6 main goals. They want to remove Zionist control from all levels of government. Well, the first thing would be, how is it a political action committee forming around its opening goal of removing Zionist control? If you were listening to Tim Pool and Laura Loomer, that's not a thing. Zionist control. What do you all think it's the Jews? Right? Like, that's just point one. Point two is that they will actively fund candidates who refuse Israeli funding. The third thing is no dual loyalties. So they're harshly against dual loyalties. And I think that needs to be put in law, period. No, a PAC shouldn't be carrying that. That needs to be federal law. No dual citizens in any level of government, period. And then no women beyond that. The fourth thing is end forever wars. So they actually outline, explicitly say no more forever wars. make APAC register under FARA, which is what we all know our great late JFK tried to do before he lost part of his head in Dallas. And the final thing is the full support to investigate the blackmail operations that exist around this country. Now, that part stood out to me because of how much we've had from like the Mark Levins of the country saying there's no such thing as a blackmail operation. So with all that being said, I'm kind of curious, for one, how far do you think this will go? 2, are you willing to support it? And 3, do you think it will even pass the FEC filing, or is it going to get shut down?
Well, dude, those are some real and relevant questions. The hopeful side of me, do you remember that guy that was like, wow, I hope Trump can do it? Do you remember that guy from earlier? The hopeful side of me is like, dude, this could be making some waves. This could be a serious thing. This would be amazing. That's the hopeful side of me. The realist, not even the pessimist, the guy living in reality, he says this is going to get shot down. This is going to get just crash and burn to the ground. I hope not. I actually pray not. But if this does come to fruition, it could be subverted so easily from all the people with all the money that love Israel anyway. Watch, we're going to get all these, I'm just going on a tangent here. We're going to get all these right-wing Jews and they're going to start in the Unpacking. And they're like, well, we're not Zionists because we're just Jews. Jews aren't Zionists. It's not synonymous. And then they're going to take over and then it's going to be like APAC 2.0, but they're going to tell you they're not Zionist. But I'm hopeful. Let's hope.
right. That's kind of like where
I'm hopeful.
At. Yeah.
Gosh.
So I recently turned on all my post notifications for Rechtenwald, and there's like another organization that's been putting out some statements about it too. So I got it all turned on because I'm following it pretty closely, and I'm glad that they made the FEC filing too. Because this is all like in the last week, but I'd have to imagine they would have massive support from both sides of the aisle. And it's cool because I'm pretty sure Rechtenwald is a libertarian, if I'm not wrong. So he kind of sits in the middle anyway. So he kind of already has the lack of branding. He's kind of more independent realm. And so both sides will feel freely to contribute to him. And I'm not sure who else is attached to that project. I'll have to look into it a bit more. But thank you, 1989 Theology. It's a great discussion. Thank you very much for the donation.
Thanks, brother. That's one of my homies there, 1989 Theology.
Yeah, I actually have him on my outreach list. I wanted to reach out to him soon. I'm gonna try to slow it down a little bit because doing the interviews 5 straight ones in a row, like hard to like.
Dude, you've been on
videos.
fire. You have been on fire. That like I don't think that the audience understands how much time this does take. You got to be dedicated to it. So yeah, props to you, Atlas.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. I wish my wife appreciated. No, just kidding. She does. With the APAC thing though, that I think has largely been an eye opener for a lot of people, even those who don't want to move to like the, name them position, where it's very easy. You can at least just look at the, there's clear Zionist control, right? And they can see that from a lot of the evangelicals. I think, as much as I think Tucker's controlled, I mean, he took a magnifying glass to Ted Cruz and lit him on fire. It's like, you can't even back up your own religion. It's like you go to church every Sunday and you can't even explain a very basic tenet of like why you believe this. And he was put on the spot and shamed and humiliated for it, and good for him, And like you had said, as much as you might not like some of these guys, I'll still take the good pieces that come from them. And so on that end though, we have people that kind of surround this adjacently. You have Candace Owens, you have Ian Carroll, you kind of have like a few others, like the Ryan Dawson type, where I don't know if he's Christian or not. I'm going to say, because I don't know. And so I'm curious, do you have kind of like a favorite, like adjacent person who you think ultimately probably isn't aligned with where we are, probably never will be, but does great, fantastic work that's kind of underrated?
You know what, dude? I think that at this point in time, I'm kind of like overdosing on red pills. I'm like, started with Elijah Schaefer, and then you move to Nick and all the guys on Cozy TV. And then like, here we are, I'm in the Nat Sock space. And I'm like a Stone Choir enjoyer and a Stone Choir enthusiast, you might say.
Yeah.
But as many bad things you mentioned them earlier, actually, as many bad things I can point out about Joel Webbin, he's doing at least in my opinion, he is a good bridge of thought. I actually made an episode called Bridge the Gap. All these podcasters, all these people that you see on screen, viewers, all these people that you see on screen, they are just bridges to get to your next path. And you might land on a city somewhere, one of your favorite viewers, and you might, or podcasters, and you might say, hey, these people think just like me. There's more people out here than just me. And you might be able to jam out, listen to them. They affirm all your biases. They get your brain to work. They get you to form your own opinions. But dude, think about this. Where I'm at right now, I used to watch Ben Shapiro owning college kids growing up, and I was like, yeah, dude, facts don't care about your feelings, man. That's awesome.
Right.
And I like, so it's all a progression. It's just how far are you willing to go? And I think that some of these people, like, hoping they'll get on our side someday, I frankly think it's not going to happen. Like, I know me personally, I'm not going to get out there and compromise my morals or my worldviews if I don't truly feel that way. You know, I'm at this point, dude, I'm so new. I only have 7 episodes on my channel right now. I'm so new, you know, I'm not in it for the money. It's for the love of the game, dude, for the love of the game. So it's like, these are all just bridges of thought. All these people, they're just bridges of thought. It's up to you guys to view the world and understand, oh shit, this is how it really is.
Yeah.
So Joel Webbin's a good one, but other than that, man, I've been watching so much content from my buddies recently, just supporting them back and forth. I don't know. Zeb, I think that Zeb and you both, Zeb Boykin and Atlas Thugged, they are both good bridges of thought. They're kind of a little bit in the mainstream. They're good guys. You guys make good content too, so that's where I'm at with that. Do you have a favorite normie kind of cool guy?
Ian Carroll's probably my top guy.
Okay. I didn't even think of Ian Carroll. Ian Carroll's a good dude. He's got a pretty large viewer base too.
Dude, his YouTube channel ignited. He's almost at 500,000 subscribers on YouTube now. I didn't know.
Right on, dude.
And when I'd followed him originally at the very beginning, when he was just largely on TikTok, he had like 1,000. So he's had a massive kind of explosion the last 2 years. And I largely say Ian because there was one debate that I listened to, or just, you know, it was a discussion to turn debate. And I highlighted that to somebody who had responded because they pointed out another one that he had been involved in. But he had a fantastic, beautiful interview. And I think his name's Penny Two Times. So he's like I don't know if he's Israeli born, but I'm pretty sure he's Jewish to some level. And they had like a 4-hour debate. Now, first hour and a half is kind of like, yeah, but they basically get into it. And I mean, and Ian just like starts ripping into details like I've never even heard before. So he starts bringing up like some of the old, like the original settlements. He's bringing up like, you know, who were even the first like terrorist organizations ever, right? Who were deemed the first like terrorist groups, like bringing out these things. It's like, why is this not talked about on other shows? It's like what I began to understand, like there's clearly, and you can find certain people like that, Nick and Carol, they say these things where it's like, I've listened to hours of political content and especially on Israel and Palestine. And it took me till this one video to find it. So I think he does a great job. I'm of the mindset too, that I think he could ultimately be convinced to believe in Jesus Christ and be a Christian. I think that he's one of those ones where I think, not that he's malleable and that he's not set in his beliefs, but I think he is one of those guys who will change his beliefs if new evidence presents itself. And I think those are good allies to have because he's going to bring in a lot of normies alongside with him. Kind of similar to Candace Owens, and I think he's kind of in a bad spot now too, basically with Candace Owens and Nick. He's kind of got to play in the middle a little bit. But another one would be like Orrin McIntyre, who I think does pretty solid work. I know that he kind of gets attacked by the Groyper crowd pretty often because he's unwilling to kind of come to some stronger positions. But I still think he does great work, and you know, he's a Bannon acolyte. And there's a few others that may fit that bill, but I guess I wouldn't say Orrin McIntyre's even normie anyways. You know, I think he's clearly kind of positioned himself to the Doug Wilson level, at least, of Christian nationalism. He's kind of branded as that. But Joe Webman, I would say Joe Webman's not even just like adjacent. I would say Joe Webman's a full-on ally, right? He's sitting there saying like, no Muslim, no synagogues, no mosques in America. And where he kind of ends, it's like it's like one element. It's like, I'll take the 98%. If we won't get the one element, that's fine, because I'll take the 98%. And we're kind of in that position too, where it's like, are we in a position to be, beggars can't be choosers, right? We can, let's just take what we can get and, keep pushing it. And on that end though, there is a level of very easily though, people who are only headline readers being able to see something that, whether it's, a Nick post or an Orrin McIntyre post or a Joe Webman post, and they see that and they go, oh, this person's a liberal, or they think this person is they think they are, I guess maybe less so Joe Webman. But like when Nick comes out about the Kamala thing, right? They're like, oh, these guys are just liberals in disguise. I think part of that is marked by the fact that they don't understand that for a while now, the youth has been kind of conjoining in a way where the youth has a couple of different ideal sets that between the aisles align. So for example, the majority of people I talk to are 30 years in younger, hate anyone who's 40 and older. I mean, absolutely despise them. And so there's some things, especially with like the Zionist control too. And so my thought process as well is we may see by proxy of whether it's Democratic or Republic, just in the generational shift we're about to see in probably like 15, 20 years, we could see two entirely different parties in 20, 25 years. And we don't even need the third party to come out of nowhere. We don't need this balkanization. We may be already headed towards a complete kind of overture of what these party positions are. And I'm kind of curious, what your thoughts are on what I just laid out there.
Now, that I think if, let's just say, we stuck with the left and right mentality there, and hey, the Republicans, they started to come around and they do align with our ideals, and well, in turn, that same thought process is that the left would get then further to the left or maybe even come right. That's too much speculation for me personally, how I view it. So if I look at just the time I've been alive, the Conservative Party as it stands right now, like I know that you just mentioned generational shift here, but as it stands right now, how I view what's going to happen, if I had to take an educated guess based on historical events, is that the left is going to push more crazy, degenerate stuff, and they're going to legislate, and then the Republicans are just going to be 8 to 10 years behind them. Slippery slope with gay marriage, into transgenderism, into you name it. Here they're coming for your kids next, guys. Wake up. And that's why we're here. Wake up. So I think if we're going to stay in that democratic frame of mind, I think that's why guys out here are doing what they're doing, is to make sure that we actually are pushing further to the right. Because if we're stuck in this hellscape of right versus left, and there's no third position, or there is no good versus evil thought in the headline readers' minds, I like that term. Then yeah, dude, it's perfect. But if this left and right dichotomy is just like permanent and we're stuck forever, then I'm praying and I'm hoping that we at least hold the line or push further to the right, dude, because this next generation, like even Gen Alpha, yeah, okay, a lot of them are brain rot watching iPad kids. Those are going to be the future headline readers. But there are a lot of, they're not under the illusion of the TV anymore. They have the internet. They have the endless stream of information in front of them. So they can do research on, we'll just say Zionism to be polite. They can do research like you and I have done in the past year. They can watch an Ian Carroll video and be like, holy crap, this guy's awesome. I never even knew about that, and do their own research. So I am hopeful. I'm always hopeful. I'm the optimistic realist. Like the optimist side of me wants like, yeah, dude, the Republican Party in 25 years, we're going to be freaking marching down and goose stepping and everything. But like, I don't know. I don't really see it happening. I'm hopeful, but yeah. I guess I'm kind of lukewarm on my thoughts of the future. I can only speculate.
Yeah, I get that. I guess it's just, for me, and this probably go to a good segue to the next one. For me, because I have kids, so I am very forward vision oriented. And partly why I probably am very largely driven to be an accelerationist is because I don't want to have to die knowing that my daughter has to figure it out. I don't want to be the guy who is like, well, my kid will figure it out. Because then I would just be a boomer. I would die a boomer. That's what boomers do. They pass on all their problems to everybody else. And then they say, they just say, are ignorant. So on that end though, where are you at? And you don't have to get specific details, but I'm curious for one, give everybody an idea of how old you are, but two, where are you at with family planning, and how do you feel that's going to kind of coincide with what you say online versus alignment with your partner, and how that's kind of operate? Where are you at with that journey?
Yo, dude, that is a deep question. And why not just be completely transparent? So we've been married for a little over a year, about a year and a half. We've been actively trying, not just if it happens, it happens, but we've been actively trying for children for, it'll be coming up on a year here before too long. No luck yet. I have all these plans, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. We're praying for us. But I have this doom and gloom thinking, okay, what if I can't have kids? What if? And then I think, well, if I can't have kids, I'm going to go hard in the paint on the podcast. I'm going to be going extreme. But I need to, right now I'm in the planning stage. Like you said, I'm hopeful that I have children, and I need to be mindful of my surroundings. But like I said earlier a couple times, I'm not going to compromise my belief system due to the fact that I'm going to have children and bring them into this world. Do I think it might be a little embarrassing for my kids or my future kids or my wife to be pulled into some of this slander and these smear campaigns? Yes, but I know that my wife and I, we love each other, and we're going to make it, and everything's good there. So all these other idiots can do whatever they're going to do. I'm not going to be living in fear. Nothing is going to stop me for advocating for the security of our Americans' futures. So that's, yeah, dude, but I'm yearning to have kids real bad. I want some kids, brother.
Yeah.
How many kids you said kids plural? How many do you got?
Yeah. So I have a son who I don't, unfortunately I don't talk much about. I could probably be a bit more personal at a later date with them, but I have a daughter with my wife now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So multiple for me. And obviously, we have plans for a lot more, down the line. It's kind of been where our head's at.
There you go.
And, I guess the way I've always thought about it too is people ask me that question all the time because I wanted to turn around on somebody else, because I wanted to hear the opposite perspective. Because people ask me because they see me and how I behave with my wife, and they go that doesn't make any sense. They're like, everywhere else is telling me that I could never have a woman that would be aligned with my beliefs, or that I could talk like this, or even halfway have a, biblically representative marriage. And truth be told, it's a lot of times I really don't know what to say. I kind of give people my idea set, I basically took a liberal woman and said hey, let me break you down your worldview and show you why you're wrong. And I think in that process, she began to be a bit more, she earned a lot of respect from me, because she was just well, he's right. And then, she doesn't like being proved wrong, but she could see it. And we want men to have a generational impact. But in order to have a generational impact, you have to have kids. And there's a big issue, I think, where a lot of the guys that we have, and not in your position at all, but in the position of they've given up. They're incels, or they just they're not even trying. And that ultimately,
they're almost anti-women.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of and it's another bad spot, because it's I relate and I feel for every single one of these guys who's in these spots, right? Incels. And And truth be told, it's harsh out there. You know, I'm out of the dating market, so I can't even relate to that stuff anymore. And it's like, I want those guys to be able to look in their pocket watch and see the image of their wife and go, yeah, I can go a bit harder. Because when you think about men who are willing to take these immense sacrifices, it's because they are a belief of themselves in the future. They're doing it because they're doing it for their children, for their family, for their loved ones. And I'm kind of fearful of that. What happens if in 25 years down the road, only 40% of the guys in our movement have kids? You know, what does that kind of do in terms of like a social makeup of a group? Because I think, for one, a very shallow component of that would be the first thing. It would just not be brand, savvy, if you will. If a bunch of like 42, 43-year-old guys never been with a woman are the ones like, we're going to lead the world. It's like, you're beginning to lose a bit of that credibility, because you can't have, it's one of those things where it's like, it's hard to have an opinion on raising children when you don't have one, right? It's like a lot of people immediately write you off because it's like, nope, you don't have kids, man. And I truth be told, a lot of people who don't have kids, I wouldn't listen to their opinion anyways, because it's like, you don't have kids. You don't know what it's like. You don't even experienced it. You've read about it in a book and you're just applying what you think from the book, but you have not experienced it yourself. So I will say, for one, I'm rooting for you, and I will be praying for you. I'll add that to my to-do list as soon as we're finished here, because I do wish you the best in that journey. And I know, because there's people close to me in my life, and I won't name them, who are going through similar things as you, and I know how tough that can be, thinking about the future, what ifs. So praying for you and rooting for you on that end.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, of course. And I guess maybe more specific to your wife, you don't have to name her name or anything or tell the journey, but where is she at with your views? And is that something that you actively communicate to her? Or was she privy to them before you guys met? Or did you have to do some convincing? What was that like?
So just a brief summation, not to get into too many of the nitty-gritty details, but right now, and I think that the way you were talking, your wife respects you. That's how my wife is. She respects me. She respects me. She respects my thought process. Does she agree with everything as extreme as I do? No. Right. But that's also more, makes me want to advocate more for repealing the right for women to vote. Because, and I'm not anti-women. I'm not anti-woman. I am married. Women are an essential part. Yeah, dude, the women are an essential part of this life. And if you think about it, of the background of this movement.
Yeah.
But women are helpmates. If we had women in this organization, if this movement ever became a real movement, we would have women doing flyers, doing marketing, organizing events. But as far as the leaders and the speakers and the movers and the shakers, that's us boys. That's us men.
Right.
And exactly like Atlas said, do not give up hope, because there is some chick out there that you're going to be like, hey, this one doesn't annoy me as much. And it's going to be like, all right, it's go time, dude. And you don't have to dump. If you have to dump all your money into a woman, you're freaking missing the mark. Do this trick. Whenever you go on your first date, don't pay for the girl. Go Dutch. Make her pay for herself. Then you'll know if she's in it to win it. Dude, when I met my wife, I was making, I'm not even joking, I was making $12 an hour working at Lowe's or something. I was making $12 an hour moving lumber. And she was cool with it. I knew she wasn't in it for the money. And now we're doing all right. So it is possible, fellas. You gotta set them ground rules from the beginning, boys. You gotta make it known. But she's not as based and red pilled as me. However, she respects me, dude. She respects me.
Well, and that's part of it is great on the respect part, because I think that if there was a message to be sent to women who are wondering why maybe their relationships aren't failing or why men aren't interested in them, it would be like the most important thing for a man, what he receives from a woman in a relationship, whether it is just boyfriend, girlfriend, and then going beyond to marriage, is respect. I would probably even take the Andrew Tate position, where I think I would rather be respected than loved. Like, I kind of think that's as far as I'd probably take it, because that would be that would be the more healthy component of that to have in the relationships in terms of the male aspect. But you had said something along there too, forgive me, where, you know, not giving up hope. And I think that's important. Now, and I'm probably going to ask this for a lot of people as they come on too, especially those who are probably married or involved or you in some level of relationship, because I'd like to give as much advice out to those guys who are in this chat right now who are wondering like, how the hell is it ever going to happen? But also too, like the base component is like, she shouldn't be at the same level as you. Like the male is meant to be the more radical and you know, the more visionary one of the two. Like the female is a lot more, they make decisions by consensus. So when you're saying a lot of things that no vast majority of people disagree with, that's her check mark. Like she checks it and goes back, well, what's everyone else saying? Because women are social creatures, right? That's like the village component of it. And they see that and they go, okay, the vast majority of the internet says I should dump you right now. And then, but you kind of get that respect where, you know, if she stays with you in amidst like, you know, vocalizing those beliefs, you have an idea of like, okay, she clearly respects me to some degree. She's not immediately walked out the door because I said something that would get me banned, you know, online somewhere. And I do want to know, tell me a bit more about yourself. I don't know you that well. So tell me like favorite music, video games, movies, or anything that would tell me a bit more about like who you are. Let the audience know who you are.
I am a little humble man. I am no fun. I hate doing things. I'm a very social creature, but I don't like to do that. I'm very, and this is also kind of involves the movement as well. Kind of my mindset here. I've always been so individualistic, but then once I realized that no matter how individualistic that I want to be, how self-serving I want to be, we are a collective. We are a people. We are a people. We are a family unit. We are a city. We are a state. We are a country. We are a nation. So I like to play guitar. I only play video games in the winter, very seldomly on my Asus ROG Ally. What else do I like to do? I like to spread hate online.
Well, rapid fire. What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Tie between Fight Club and Donnie Darko.
Interesting. Wait, Donnie Darko's a movie? I like
working out. Yeah, Donnie Darko's a movie, dude. I like working out. You guys better work out.
Yeah.
Get off your, yeah.
Working out is a component we really got to start bringing back. Listen, I get if you want to be an incel. Still no excuse to not be a jacked freak. Like, dude, especially if you have no woman at home, there's no reason that you shouldn't look like you take horse pills. You know,
for real. Like, it takes like 20 minutes a day. If you get to a place to where you're not like fat blob status, I only work out like 15, 20 minutes a day, and I got abs and pecs and I got traps. You know, I got everything. And it's not necessarily about the vanity. It's about the longevity, the respect, the image that you display to the world. If you have every right-wing Christian nationalist looking like an absolute Chad, people are going to respect us. They're not going to be, oh, look at those ragtag bunch of losers. No, we are the future. We are coming, and we're going to make it, dude. We're going to come in. We're going to have no wives, and we're going to be jacked as hell.
but this is the point. And even if you stop it before going full Christian nationalist, we even saw leading up to this last election, all of these things coming out about these liberal girls being like, I hate that guy, but for some reason, like, I just really want to have a relationship with him. You know, and it's like,
yeah, you do, honey.
It's because you're attracted because that is a masculine male. Like, all the males in your space are not that. It's like, it's no surprise there. And that's one thing that's just why I kind of harp on it a lot. It's like, every single one of us can immediately convert one person immediately if you can be a Chad and wife up someone. There you go. You've already you've done your part. You converted one person to Christian nationalism. Thank you very much. Let's get the next guy to Chad up and get a wife too. That's easy. And I kind of think of things too from like the level of, well, what's in most men's control? What is well within the average guy's grasp? Well, for most guys, a female that they would be attracted to is not in their grasp. But you know what is? The gym. Planet Fitness starts at like $11.99 or something. I don't care if there's Indians in there. Wear a clothespin, figure it out. Just like you have to. Like these are certain things that you have to. We are running a bit short on time, so I wanted to get a few couple things in. One thing that I'm going to ask Jeff, because he's ortho, and I'm going to have Pine Sap because he's Catholic. You are Protestant?
Yeah, I'm Protestant. Currently I'm Lutheran. I've read the Large and Small Catechism by Martin Luther. I align with it, but with the Judeo-Christianity kind of overtaking the West. My pastor right now, he's pretty based. I love the guy. I respect him. If something were to change when he retires, I don't have an issue going to be a Presbyterian. Maybe not a Baptist, but I don't have an issue switching churches or switching denominations. It would suck, but right now I'm Lutheran.
Perfect. That's like the history of my wife. She grew up Lutheran, and the church near me, the most recent one I've went to is Lutheran. I have abandoned the Protestant label, though. As much as I give a bunch of credit to Joel Webben in Stone Choir, I'm still have to face the fact that as much as co-opting there was, I still look at things, I judge people by their fruit, so I'll judge the movement by their fruit. And the fruit of Protestantism is that we're about to lose the whole country. And so that's kind of like, I know it's a lot to put on Protestantism, but that's kind of where I'm at when I look at it. And I've not even put my banner on anything else. I lean Orthodox, but I want to kind of get your best argument. If you had a 3-minute elevator pitch, what is your best argument for Protestantism?
I don't. All right, let me just talk about why not Catholicism. So why not Catholicism for me? Hey guys, you Catholics out there, I believe you're Christian. You are my Christian brothers. I love you. Let's go. Let's take this country back. But I do not believe that communing with saints is something that I should be practicing. I don't necessarily believe it's idol worship, but it's kind of like leaning that way. And I know Catholics will think I'm an idiot for saying that. I think that my communion with Christ should be between me and Christ. I don't need a pope telling me how I should think politically or anything like that. And then people might say, well, Adam, why don't you then practice orthodoxy? Why don't you move on to the Eastern Orthodoxy? I found that now I need to do a little bit of my own research, but just from what I've found, same thing, Orthodox guys. I love you guys. I'm a lot of mutuals on Twitter. I'm mutuals with a lot of you fellas. But it's Eastern Orthodoxy. So this Eastern philosophy is kind of commingling with Christianity. And what I get is almost like a Buddhism Christianity crossover with a little bit of papacy, but we don't have a pope, but at least there's a hierarchy. So that's what landed me at seeking. I actually sought out a Lutheran church because I like that traditional liturgical practice. Like my pastor, he wears the robes and he does everything, and we take communion every time.
Yep.
But I don't believe that we are on this earth to be works-based. It's not works-based salvation. It's salvation through faith alone, Christ alone, and the sincerity of the individual. Now, there are things that you can do and say that, well, racism is a sin. That's sinful. Well, show me in the Bible where it says that. The issue, and I'll give you an issue with the Protestant movement, just like you said, man. The issue is there is no hierarchy. So church, by denomination council, they can be subverted from inside out from all these hippy-dippy, freaking tie-dye shirt wearing, let's love everyone and give unlimited immigrants to America. All these people, it's like, dude, that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to love our neighbors as ourselves. We're not supposed to invite the world to be our neighbors. They are not our neighbors.
Right.
They are not. Nor do I want to invite them. And people might be like, well, they're sojourners. They're coming in from a distant land. And it's like, well, dude, if you say it that way, they're abandoning their people. Why aren't they back in their country trying to make things better for their people? So I got on another tangent here, but Protestantism, yeah, bro. Protestantism has its faults in the fact that there is no hierarchy. So you got to kind of like, that's why people say, oh, I'm going church shopping. Well, you literally are, because I thank God that I found a pastor relatively close to us that has, he preaches from the Bible. He doesn't put his spin on things. He doesn't put a right wing or a left wing spin on anything. He preaches from the Bible, which, guys, is inherently right wing anyway. But yeah, that's my whole take on the Orthodoxy, Catholicism, Protestantism thing. Yeah. Like, we are all Christians and we need to unite. Right. We can worry about arguing about the papacy and all that stuff later. Like, I hope you guys don't, you Catholics don't hate me for that, but like, let's get it going, dude. Let's make this stuff happen.
That's kind of like how I view it too, because I parallel what we're going through right now, similar to the Crusades. And what did they have to do in the Crusades? Well, the West had to reach across to the East and unite together. Otherwise, they were all going to get wiped out. So I think that's kind of a similar position that we're in now. You know, and I guess my biggest pushbacks to that and things that kind of like shook it open for me, I do think the strongest argument against Eastern Orthodoxy in America is the Eastern portion. I think Corey and whoa, forgive me.
They did
a great job highlighting like where those influences come from and kind of like that mysticism aspect. But where I would stop is that what I see from a lot of churches, though, that are Protestant, it does follow that trend of, it seems like they do worship Scripture and not God. And so there is an element of like losing sight of like, there is an actual kind of spirituality, like there is an actual divinity and like being, presence that's involved in it too. But those are just some like side points, and the hierarchy is probably the big one for me too. The entire idea that like, for a lot of these church plants, they basically get, some Jewish funder comes in, and then basically next thing you know, you have fog machines and girl singers. And so it's just like, it's over.
Yeah.
But we have passed the 2-hour mark. I don't want to turn into a full-on, we'll talk deep about, get into theology here. Go ahead and shout out anything you want to shout out, links, where people can find you, best way they can support you. Go ahead and rip it.
All right, guys. So listen up. You're going to follow me at Main Dissident across all platforms. I know my boy Atlas is going to be linking my stuff in the show notes. Yep. Guys, give me a follow. Little bit of disclaimer before you go check out my stuff. Currently, I only have 7 episodes, and guess what, fellas? They're audio only. But as Atlas has proved tonight, my big debut, I am on screen, and I'm going to be doing video content. I'm going to make it real. I'm going to make it actionable. I'm going to make it awesome for you guys. So if you want to join me on that journey, and maybe you'll watch me get banned off of the face of YouTube, maybe not. But yeah, at Main Dissident, you can look up Mainstream Dissident. If you Google Mainstream Dissident, you're going to find my RSS.com feed. You can put it in any of your favorite podcast players. I'm going to be there if you prefer to listen to me audio only. That's what I got, brother.
Perfect. No, and exactly what you said. You can find all of those links in the description. His X, his YouTube, and his Spotify. All 3 are listed there. Go and definitely reach out and subscribe to him. Show him some love. And then last minute super chat came in here from Donnie Brooks, said, "Unite the White." Thank you very much for the donation, brother. I do appreciate it. And with that, that is the show. Thank you very much, Mainstream, for coming on. I do appreciate it very much. I will harken back to the beginning. We're thinking about rolling out merchandising, but it's in the very early stages. So I need ideas for whether you want t-shirts or whether you want coffee mugs or whether you think it's a retarded idea and I should shut up. Whatever it is, let me know so we have a good idea of what the audience would like, because I'd like to keep it democratic, because people hated my last intro. So clearly I don't have the best creative decisions for what the audience would like. So definitely let me know what you guys would like to see. And with that, Mainstream, it's been a pleasure. Again, I'll be praying for you and be praying for you and your family as well. And Christ
Thanks,
is King.
Atlas.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say thank you, man. Thank you. It was a great time. I hope I can be on again, sir.
Yeah, definitely can. Yeah, and that's one thing too I meant to say as well. You're doing the 5 in a row. I realized like, okay, it is chaotic, and I don't have the employees that Timcast IRL does. So it's like trying to do the coordination and stuff 5 days in a row. I'll probably go down to 3 people a week, that way I can do more actual video content for YouTube and a bit more solo streams as well to get back into the rhythm of doing that as well. Great episode, great content. They can find you all in the description. Christ is King, ban women from public life, deport Kash Patel, and Pam Bondi needs to probably go to prison. And with that, I will see you guys tomorrow. We have Jeff Younger in the house tomorrow, and also be paying attention for me or my ex for a big announcement for Pine Saps on Friday. His will also be at 5 p.m. Actually, we're moving his to 5 p.m. That was the announcement I forgot. Pine Sap will be at 5 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be 1 hour earlier than every other show this week. And with that, we can go ahead and end it. Thank you very much, Mainstream, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
What's good, everybody? This is Atlas Thugged. As much as we have, it's currently a media blackout right now. It's about a 10-minute video here. Get the libertarians out of this party, dude. Part of a new series I'm going to be running called Bot or Not.
I grew up as a white man, and you're the exact opposite, you know?
It's time we have a difficult conversation about race.
40 IQ points it needs to think about what is being told to you.
Most people are just blatantly apathetic to what goes on around in their surroundings, let alone this play.
A trans woman's penis make you gay? Can I try to answer that comment?
The dating market is for men your age. I'm not a misogynist, I'm a sexist. Right, like for example, like as a white man, I can go out and I could go right here in Columbus and scream the N-word as loud as I wanted to because I have that privilege. Those who would sacrifice a little freedom for a little convenience serves neither.
Titan says, Browns should be for whites. We were just trying to help them run a better empire.
Hey, truth. But she straight up, she's like, stock market. She's like, bro, like, I can't even buy a fucking house. Like,
And, you know, it probably doesn't help that half the comments are, oh, you're not banned on YouTube. Man, how is this guy? How's this guy not banned on YouTube? It's like, yeah, I'm sure YouTube probably picks up on those things. And they're probably wondering why so many people are saying that, you know.
and all these top brass pundits who have some kind of association or relationship with Epstein, you know, it's getting to the point where you got to think like I'm about to go look at my residential history and be like, did I live next to Epstein for like some time? Like, man, everyone was planning must have some relation to Epstein. And then you go, oh, actually, no. This is because the administration is all wrapped in together with it themselves.
And I said this maybe about a year ago. You know, what if Christianity wasn't in such a cucked position that what if Andrew Tate, like Tristan, would have went to a Christian position? Fell for it again award, #1 right here. And you know what? I can't even make fun of the audience because I fell for it too. And that's probably what I'm most pissed about. He's huffing some extreme copium. Oh yeah, sister, you definitely owned him. Hey, can I see you after tonight? You know, it's like that's what you're competing up against because or bad jacketing him and calling him a weird little gay.
Is this like alt-right Wolf's husband? What am I listening to?
Okay, stop it. This guy's gonna get into statistics, stuff like that.
Oh, not statistics. Not
So-
we don't do statistics.